everyone, and welcome back to Morning Cup. I am so glad you're here today and can't wait to start the week off powerfully with you with our Monday Mindset quote, which we'll get into in just a minute. But this week is all about emotional connection. And I feel like that's so important when it comes to our relationship with self, others, and it is the month of February, the month of love, and love is every day. It doesn't need just a month. But when it comes to self love, I think that's so important. It's one of my core values, one of my core pillars of my business, because it is important how we connect with ourselves, how we connect with others, and how we navigate relationships. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about this week. But starting with our quote is staying vulnerable is a risk we have to take if we want to experience a connection. And that is by Brene Brown. You ever heard of her? She's an author. I love her books. But she really talks about shame and guilt and the connection and correlation with vulnerability. And the first time I ever heard of vulnerability was actually her TED Talk back years ago. But she really talks about what the power of vulnerability does with our relationships. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today, which is vulnerability just makes our relationships better. It's when we can freely express our thoughts, our feelings, our opinions, desires, and really feeling open to do so and not feeling like we have to close off that, which is so important in our relationships. But what makes us vulnerable? Well, the first thing we're going to discuss is doing something you're not good at. So that can cause for rejection, inferiority, ridicule, perfectionism. So an example of this is this past week, a couple days ago actually, I went skiing for the first time. And I've never been skiing. I'm from Florida. Being in Colorado now, I'm like, okay, might as well learn how to ski. So my boyfriend and I went down like the easy part of the like slopes where you're learning like how to actually just ski and like stop, go and stop. And so I had a little problem stopping. So finally I was getting the hang of just like, using the poles and sliding down the slope. And as I was doing that, I just started going really fast and I like crashed, like wiped out, like fell, the ski went flying. So that was the first time. Then the second time, my friend's like, okay, just say pizza, like vision a pizza, say pizza to yourself. I'm like, okay. So the next time I go, I'm like, pizza, pizza. And I like fly. And literally my ski went flying. It took me like a good few minutes to get the ski back on because he wasn't close by. But anyways, so it just took me a while and I was getting really frustrated because it wasn't perfect. I was expecting, I'm an athlete. I can like get things really quickly usually. Why is this not taking that? Why is it taking longer than I expect? So anyways, we finally go down like the bigger mountain. And I was like, I'm not ready for that. But I was able to get down the mountain. I'm in one piece, clearly. But it was challenging and I wasn't good at it. And I'm still not good at it, but I had a good time at the end. I was like being able to glide down the slope and being able to understand, okay, you're not good at something. It's okay. But I was allowed to be vulnerable. I was allowed to just be free with my thoughts, my feelings about it in the beginning towards the end. And that's what helps relationships too. And just being able to have that support from one another. So that's the first thing. The second thing is showing you care. This comes up a lot in dating. So especially when you're meeting somebody new, you might feel a little bit scared to be vulnerable or show that you actually are interested or you do care or doing the little things that matter because there's a fear of disappointment because it might not be reciprocated. Or if you say too much, maybe they'll run. But in reality, it is even just in our relationships, the reality of showing that we care, we're still being authentic to ourselves. If you care, show that. It's okay. It's absolutely okay. If it's not reciprocated, then it's looking at that relationship. Is it one-sided or two-sided? But it's really being able to understand that that's a huge part of being vulnerable is showing that you care. The third thing that we're going to discuss is speaking your truth. So it can be really challenging and difficult to be vulnerable, to speak what's going on, like your feelings or your thoughts with somebody, especially someone you care about. But a lot of times we don't speak it because we're avoiding confrontation or there's this people pleasing coming into play where we don't want to rock the boat or we want to keep the peace. Everything's great when it's not. And being able to say that can really open up that conversation of what's really going on, your true feelings, your true thoughts, and being able to emotionally connect with that person that you're speaking to, whether it's a significant other, your friend, your family. And also, when we're speaking your truth, it's being able to say what you stand for without holding back or hesitation. Because when we don't speak up for what we stand for, that can impact our core values and how we relate to one another, because that can be damaging in the long run. And the fourth thing is trusting someone. When we trust someone, we feel that it's okay to open up. We sometimes maybe open up first, and but it can be difficult. It can be challenging if you aren't doing that on a regular basis. If you aren't vulnerable in the relationships that matter to you the most, because you're trusting somebody with your information. Information that could be so you're holding on to so tightly that you're like, I don't know if I can say this to this person. But it comes with time. Trust takes time to build upon, but it's having the courage to do so and to open up. And it can't always be easy depending on the relationship, but when it does feel secure and safe to do so, I encourage you to do that, because relationships are an act of trust. That's how we build it. That's how we're able to help it grow and foster and get to another level of intimacy, of connection, of really being able to relate emotionally with our person of significant other or friend or family. And I use those examples because those are the relationships that matter the most. And how do we navigate those? And it takes time, but it's all those four aspects is what truly helps us be vulnerable. So I'm excited to get started and talk the rest of this week about vulnerability, because it's something that's really important when it comes to self love, when it comes to our relationships, all relationships, especially with ourselves. So I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I will see you very soon.